on Brogan, sent in, McManaman dodging, McManaman scoring!
Yes, what's happening everyone? Welcome back to GAA Fan TV. We are here today to preview this weekend's All-Ireland semi-finals between Dublin and Mayo and Tyrone versus Kerry. Of course, guys, first of all, if you are new around here, do hit that like button, hit that subscribe button as well. I do appreciate a lot of the comments and likes on some of the last couple of videos. It's done very well in terms of views and all that kind of thing. So I do really appreciate that. Let's hopefully keep that going between now and the end of the GAA year and beyond, of course, because I will still be making a lot of videos after the All-Ireland football final and the hurling final finishes as well. But yeah, lads, of course we are here to talk about Mayo versus Dublin and of course Tyrone versus Kerry in this weekend's All-Ireland semi-finals. Hugely excited obviously for the Dublin versus Mayo game. As a Dublin fan myself, I certainly know that Mayo are the team that as a Dublin fan I've always feared. For the past 5-10 years, they're always the team that seems to push Dublin the closest. They're always the team that seems to really put it up to Dublin. They bring the best out of Dublin every time they seem to play them. There have been a number of occasions and a number of crazy finals down the years. You think back to the 2 own goals in that final, one of Dublin's actually worst All-Ireland final performances, and yet we still somehow came out of it with a draw. But all in all, Dublin and Mayo is always a classic. It is always a game that you want to be watching, no matter whether you love football or you love hurling, no matter who you support. And so what we're going to do is we're going to break down these 2 matches. I'm going to talk about how I feel either side can win, who will be the standout players, and of course who will win. So yeah, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's jump straight into it. So we'll start off by talking first of all about Dublin versus Mayo. Dublin, of course, coming in on the back of 3 straight wins in the Super 8s. They completely changed up their side in the last game versus Tyrone. They certainly have been excellent throughout the entire season in many ways, but they certainly have shown a number of weaknesses, and there are certainly a number of weaknesses in my opinion that Mayo can exploit, and one of them is their defence. Dublin's defence very much leaves a lot of gaps at times because of the way they play. They very much are a team that pushes quite high up. They do leave quite a bit of space in the full back line, and that does allow teams to exploit that from time to time. We've seen Tyrone do it earlier in the championship, earlier in the league this year. And we have seen some sides get some joy against Dublin doing that. We've seen Galway do it a little bit in the All-Ireland semi-final last year against Dublin, and we have seen Laois try it. We have seen teams give this a real go, and that is a way that you can exploit this Dublin side. But of course we do know Dublin's threat. They have a hugely, vastly experienced side that has won the All-Ireland for the past 4 years in a row. And of course they have players there that have won 5-6 All-Irelands. You're looking at players like Paul Mannion, Dean Rock, who've been excellent this year. Cormac Costello is Dublin's top scorer. Dermot Connolly coming back into the side, Bernard Brogan. And Dublin very much like to get on the front foot. They like to attack, but they do very much keep possession from time to time, and they've certainly got no problem in doing that if they come up against the defensive side. However, Mayo, the way they can beat Dublin, in my opinion, is by driving at this Dublin side, is really going for it. Dublin, they do have some issues at times defensively when teams do this. We've seen Cork do it very early on in their Super 8s game, where they just kept driving at Dublin. They just kept going for it. There was no dilly-dallying in possession. There was no blanket defence. It was get the ball, run at the dubs, and really take as many goal opportunities and as many point-taking opportunities as you can, because you will get goal chances against this Dublin team. Cork could have easily had more goals than what they got in that match. Tyrone created a number of goal opportunities against Dublin in the game at the weekend as well. So there certainly are opportunities for Mayo to drive in behind, and I feel like with the experienced players back in this Mayo side, Paddy Durkin's coming back, Andy Moran's there, you've got Tom Parsons who's edging closer to a return. You've got the ever so present Aidan O'Shea, who was excellent in that game versus Donegal. And of course as well, you do have emerging players like James Carr, Matthew Rowan as well, very good forwards in this Mayo team So if they can perform, if they can get those goal chances and really get at the Dubs very early on, they've certainly got a chance of beating Dublin, in my opinion. You know, we're looking at it as well in terms of how quick will Mayo start in this game. If they can get fast out of the blocks, match Dublin's physicality, it's definitely not impossible. One way that Mayo will have to improve is their composure in front of goal. They will have to be far more better in front of goal than they have been a number of times this year. You know, even in that game versus Donegal, where they didn't quite take their opportunities, too many missed frees, too many free kicks missed by the likes of Cillian O'Connor, and Mayo at times have struggled with that at times this year. And if they can improve a bit more in the composure, because we know the quality's there. Cillian O'Connor, all-time goal scorer in terms of points and goals in the championship. We know he has the quality there, and he certainly does show his quality enough, but he needs to, you know, Mayo need to convert 80 to 90% of their chances if they really are to beat this Dublin side. And I feel like if they do that, if they drive at Dublin, if they really try and get in behind this Dublin and match their physicality, they certainly do have a chance. In terms of how I think the game is going to go though, Dublin will have the firepower bringing players off the bench. We know Dermot Connolly has returned. He probably won't feature too much in this game, but they do just have a number of players that they can bring off the bench. They've got just more power in the midfield for me in Brian Fenton I should say, and Kieran Kilkenny. And Dublin for me will just have a bit too much in the final third than Mayo. I do feel like Mayo will probably give Dublin their strongest test in this All-Ireland. It's really hard to predict Mayo at times. There's been a couple of times this year I've backed Mayo to win a game and they've lost, and then there's a couple of times I've predicted them to lose and they've won. So you really don't know what you're going to get. But what I do think we will get in this game is Mayo absolutely going for it. They're in the All-Ireland semi-final now. They know they can put it up to the Dubs. They certainly don't fear them, and they will give Dublin a very good game. And I am expecting this to probably be the game of the year and probably be a very close competitive match. But I do think ultimately that Dublin will just have a bit too much in the final third. They will just have a bit more composure in front of goal as well. So I'm going to go ahead and say that Dublin wins this game by 3 points. And then in the other All-Ireland semi-final, we've got Kerry facing Tyrone on the Sunday. Very intriguing battle between these two teams. They're two sides that have a bit of history as well, of course, you know, going back since the early 2000s and even more recently in the 2015 All-Ireland semi-final when Kerry did actually get the better of Tyrone. But looking at these two sides, this should be a very intriguing battle in more ways than one. Tyrone, of course, have been very inconsistent at times this year, and it's very hard to really gauge how well, you know, what level Tyrone are at the moment. I do feel like a lot of people are focusing in, have been focusing in on the likes of Mayo, Kerry, and of course Donegal as being the closest challengers to Dublin. Obviously Donegal are now knocked out, of course, but certainly a lot of people felt like they were the closest challengers. But this Tyrone side, they do actually have a lot of experience in many ways, and they are a very awkward team to play against. They're a very tricky team to play against, and they will pose the type of threat that Kerry don't exactly want or need in many ways. And you know what I'm talking about is the physicality of this Tyrone side. They will be very physical, and they will make this game as difficult as possible for those Kerry forwards to get into the game. Now there has been huge rumours that this weekend that David Clifford might not start. Colm Cooper did say on the Sunday game at the weekend that he does have a slight back injury, so that means he may not actually feature in this game. It will be interesting to see how that plays out, who Kerry bring in instead of him. Of course, Tyrone will probably more than likely operate a blanket defence system and really try and counter Kerry. I do think that will make it very difficult for Kerry, even if David Clifford does start. David Clifford very much likes to go on the inside or the outside quite a lot when he does have the ball, and I feel like Tyrone will limit that very easily. Stephen O'Brien won't quite get the same space that he got in the Donegal game or in the Mayo game, so it will be a very difficult and different type of test for this Kerry side. We've seen when Kerry played similar opposition in Croke Park last year against Galway, they actually struggled and they were actually beaten, and this is a different kind of test for this Kerry side. Tyrone will try to play it into the space, into the likes of Peter Hart, and they will be expecting, you know, him to get on the end of crosses and really try and make a difference for this Tyrone side. You're looking at Cathal McShane as well, who has been one of Tyrone's standout players as well. And it will be a very physical match, and I do just fancy Tyrone on the counter-attack to cause a lot of problems for Kerry. It will be a different type of side that Kerry have played so far this year. And I feel like Tyrone are being underestimated in many ways. You know, a lot of people are kind of looking at the fact that they were poor in many ways against Cork, and certainly had some difficulties against Roscommon in that game as well. But Tyrone, you know, they're the type of side that they can really hurt sides that, you know, like to play the brand of attacking football. And I do feel like Tyrone will cause problems for Kerry. Of course, you're looking at Tyrone's midfield as well. You are looking at players like Matty Donnelly, Conor Moyler, Niall Sludden as well, to really try and make a difference for this Tyrone side. I feel like they will just have the edge over this Kerry team. Kerry, look, listen, I'm certainly not going to write them off. They have some phenomenal players. If they can start right and get an early lead, they certainly, you know, could go on to win this game. Paul Gainey looked very good in the game against Donegal, so he looked very bright in that match. You know, some significant improvements from him since the Munster Championship and since his league campaign as well. So certainly are a lot of positives to go into this game for Kerry, but I just feel like they're not quite at that level yet. And I just feel like Tyrone's physicality and experience will just see them through. But who knows? It's a very tricky one to call. I feel like many people will go with Kerry in this game, but I just have a sneaky feeling Tyrone will just edge it. But yeah, guys, do let me know down in the comments what you think will happen. But I do just fancy Tyrone to just have a bit more experience and a bit more pace on the counter-attack to outclass Kerry. But yeah, guys, that has been my preview of this weekend's All-Ireland semi-finals. Do let me know down in the comments below. Am I right? Am I wrong? And anyway, lads, my name is Aaron, and I will catch you all next time.